Coming up on this Tuesday edition of Daybreak, Russia invites US President Barack Obama to attend Victory Day celebrations in Moscow next May. This as sources say North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is likely to attend the event. Korea's Finance Minister Choi Kyung-hwan calls for labour market reform to reduce the nation's relatively high youth unemployment rate. First, Chinese President Xi Jinping's anti-corruption drive kicks into high gear as a top advisor to former Chinese leader Hu Jintao is placed under investigation for suspected serious disciplinary violation. Daybreak begins now. Hello and thanks for joining us. To our viewers around the world, it's 6 a.m. on Tuesday, December 23rd here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broome and you're tuned in to Daybreak. And new this morning, in a highly symbolic move, the UN Security Council has adopted North Korea's human rights record as an official agenda item. This is the first time ever that the top UN body has touched upon North Korea's grave human rights issues. The Council suggests that Pyongyang be referred to the International Criminal Court for its alleged crimes against humanity. The decision to add this item to the Council's agenda could serve as a prelude to punitive measures in the future and will hopefully increase pressure on Pyongyang to treat its people better. Monday's Council decision follows a stinging report which included interviews with defectors and witnesses presented to the UN on the humanitarian conditions in North Korea, including violations in the country's political prison camps. North Korea has lashed out at the United States and accused the Obama administration of being behind the satirical film The Interview, which depicts the fictional assassination of Kim Jong-un. The latest comments are an escalation in the row over the hacking of Sony Pictures, which the FBI blamed on Pyongyang last week. Shin Se-min has more.
North Korea isn't just denying a hand in the cyber attack on Sony Pictures, they're threatening to retaliate for the mere suggestion that they were involved. In a statement posted Sunday, Pyongyang's National Defense Commission said it fully stands in confrontation with Washington in all war spaces, including the one on the web. The statement even threatens to blow up the White House, the Pentagon, and all of the U.S. mainland if President Barack Obama retaliates over last month's Sony cyber hack. As for who was responsible for carrying out the attack on Sony, which set off a series of events that led to the theatrical release of The Interview being cancelled, the North Korean regime said they had clear evidence that the Obama administration was involved in making the film. They also stressed again that the hackers worked on their own. The statement says they don't know who or where the hackers are, but praised their attack as a righteous action and that they're supporters and sympathizers of the North. South Korea didn't escape blame in the statement. The regime said it had never carried out a single hacking attack and that all cyber attack-related incidents were orchestrated by Seoul. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Now to some news just coming in related to that story, and basically North Korea is thought to be experiencing some widespread internet outages at the moment. No word yet as to whether the connectivity problems are US payback for that major hacking attack at Sony Pictures that the FBI laid the blame on Pyongyang last week. One expert in the US says North Korea's online access has degraded over the last 24 hours, but are now totally down. But nothing is confirmed as yet. Now, US President Barack Obama last week said the US would respond to the Sony hack attack in a proportional way, but didn't say how. The White House has yet to comment on this reported internet outage in North Korea. The State Department had said earlier that some US responses would be seen and some wouldn't. Russia's celebration of its 70th anniversary since its victory over Nazi Germany in World War II could end up having quite the mix of VIP guests. A Kremlin official has confirmed that US President Barack Obama and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un have been invited to the May 9th event. A diplomatic source in Beijing said on Monday that Kim is likely to accept Russia's invitation. No word yet on Obama, though. Officials say countries that took part in the fight against the Nazis are invited. Now, the invitation to Obama comes amid, obviously, very tense relations between Russia and the West after Moscow's annexation of Crimea and the Ukraine crisis in general. If Obama were to accept Russia's invite, most eyes, of course, would be heavily focused on a potential meeting between the US leader and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Now, turning back to the threat of cyber terror, but this time here in South Korea. And authorities say that despite the recent online leak of information regarding the country's nuclear reactors, there's no threat in regards to the public safety. But the hacker says he's not done yet. Connie Kim reports.
A two-day-long cybersecurity drill has begun at all of Korea's nuclear facilities in light of the recent leak of sensitive information. The Energy Ministry will work with various agencies, such as the Nuclear Safety and Security Commission, to make sure all are safe from any potential cyber attacks. Over the two-day period, the ministry will make sure that power plants are not susceptible to future hack attacks, but experts say not enough is being done.
It is going to take time and money, but the nuclear reactor's operating system should be established again from scratch. Updates aren't a long-term solution. Hackers could still shut down power at the reactor from outside.
The unidentified hacker leaked more information about the facilities over the weekend and threatened more leaks if the government does not shut down some of its reactors by Christmas Day. The freshly leaked data includes floor maps, operation manuals, and safety reports from the state-run Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power Company, and information on the Kori 2 and Walsung 1 reactors. While authorities say the information released until now poses no threat, the hackers are threatening to release tens of thousands of pages of new data, including blueprints and other classified information. The investigation team says that the attack was well planned. They say the registration information the hacker used to set up a blog detailing the attack was stolen, and that the Twitter ID he or she used was registered in the US. Korean investigators have requested assistance from the FBI in the probe. They haven't ruled out North Korea's involvement, with some of the malware code discovered similar to that in previous North Korean attacks. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Now, after the Constitutional Court's historic ruling last week to disband a left-wing political party, the election watchdog here in Korea on Monday delivered a follow-up ruling on the fate of the party's councillors who have vowed to not go down without a fight. Ji Myung-gil has all the details.
The National Election Commission decided on Monday to strip 6 members of the now disbanded Unified Progressive Party from their seats in provincial legislatures. The election watchdog said there was no reason for the councillors to maintain their posts.
The National Election Commission has decided to reclassify the 6 councillors as having resigned under election law, since the party itself was dissolved for violating the Constitution.
The 6 who were appointed under the proportional representation system called the decision invalid because election law dictates that seats may be taken away only when members break away from the party. They plan to file an injunction. Last Friday, the Constitutional Court ordered the dissolution of the UPP, which resulted in 5 of its lawmakers losing their seats in the National Assembly. Political watchers had also expected that the party's 6 members in post at the provincial level would also lose their seats. All 5 of the UPP's sitting lawmakers who were kicked out of the National Assembly say they will file a lawsuit against the state. They claim the Constitutional Court does not have the right to remove them from the legislature, as there's no law that stipulates the status of lawmakers in the case their party is dissolved. However, the court said there was no reason for the lawmakers to pursue their parliamentary seats when their party had been dissolved, a decision they should responsibly accept. Last Friday's ruling comes more than 400 days after the Justice Ministry filed a petition against the UPP following the arrest of a number of its members on rebellion and conspiracy charges. Several UPP members, including former lawmaker Lee Seok-gi, were convicted of plotting to overthrow the government in the event of war with North Korea. Kim Jongun, Arirang News.
We start before the sun rises to bring you the latest stories out of Korea. We also lead the way with important global coverage. Stay on the pulse of what is happening with Daybreak.
Now, there are rising concerns Korea could be slipping headfirst into a low-growth trap. To prevent a Japan-style standstill, officials have pledged to push through with comprehensive structural reforms next year. Hwang Jie reports.
The Finance Ministry on Monday lowered its 2014 growth outlook to 3.4% and that of next year's to 3.8%, citing still sluggish domestic demand. To pull the economy out of its low-growth rut, the government's economy management plan for next year will put emphasis on structural reforms while maintaining its expansionary policy.
Structural changes will focus on the labor, education, financial, and public sectors so that human resources and money, which are an economy's key elements, can be distributed efficiently.
The government will seek ways to raise the female labor participation and better utilize the foreign workforce, while educational reform will place emphasis on enhancing vocational training. It plans to promote apprenticeship programs where students in college or in vocational schools can receive training directly from related companies. The government will cut red tape in the financial sector and promote the use of IT at banks and other financial institutions to foster the so-called fintech. Under the government plan, policymakers will also tackle pressing risks head-on. One major task is diffusing threats posed by snowballing household debt.
The government will use a state housing fund to switch roughly $35 billion of short-term loans, carrying floating rates into longer-term, fixed-rate loans.
For the corporate sector, the government will introduce new measures to speed up the debt restructuring process. The move will allow troubled companies to begin workout programs before their financial health becomes irreparable. And through the structural changes, the government aims to lay the groundwork for sustainable economic growth, hopefully making 2015 a turning point for regaining economic vitality. Hwang Jie, Arirang News.
Korea now has more than 12 bilateral free trade pacts secured, but the Trade Ministry is looking to lock in even more deals in the next year, including a number of so-called mega FTAs. Our Song Ji-son reports.
2014 could be remembered as the year of free trade deals for South Korea. Over the past 12 months, Seoul has concluded negotiations with China, Canada, New Zealand, and Vietnam, with an FTA with Australia taking effect. Add all of them up, and Korea has 15 FTA agreements with a total of 52 nations that account for 73% of the global economy. For 2014, Seoul's focus was on wrapping up bilateral free trade deals. For the coming year, it's on sealing multilateral and regional pacts. According to officials at Trade Ministry, Korea's goal is to ink a trilateral deal with China and Japan before the end of 2015. The government says it will approach the trilateral pact, now entering a third year of negotiations, looking for a term similar to those contained in the Korea-China FTA. Seoul also hopes agreements can be reached for the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, which involves the 10 ASEAN member countries, along with India, Australia, and New Zealand, Korea, China, and Japan. As for the Trans-Pacific Partnership led by the U.S., Seoul signaled an interest in joining negotiations last year. The government says it will look into the possibility of doing that as soon as possible after the deal is signed. The government sees this aggressive push for free trade deals as a means for fostering future growth through exports, which is at the heart of the government's 3-year economic reform plan. In a meeting with businessmen last week, President Park Geun-hye ordered a new focus on signing additional FTAs with emerging economies as well. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
Now staying with economic news, and Korea's finance chief has been touting the need to completely overhaul the nation's labour market in an attempt to reduce the relatively high youth unemployment rate being felt here in the country. Speaking about next year's economic policy directions to major news stations on Monday, Choi Kyung-hwan emphasised the need to reduce economic polarisation to create more jobs, especially for young people. He recognised the difficulties of carrying out structural reform, but said it was necessary, especially as big corporations are hiring fewer full-time employees amid economic uncertainties both at home and abroad. According to data from Statistics Korea, the jobless rate for the 15 to 29 age group was 7.5% in November. That's much higher than the overall unemployment rate. The finance minister also stated that the government will work to expand the social security net. Now, smartphone platform services continue to evolve as they penetrate further and further into our daily lives. A very bright future lies ahead for this market as Korea and other countries across Asia are edging ever closer to a truly mobile-only era. Kwon So-ah reports.
Information and communications technology is increasingly a part of our daily lives. And with the mobile sector now blazing forward to lead a platform revolution, it's expected that in 2015, more Koreans will take advantage of the growing number of services available to them anytime, anywhere, through their smartphones. For example, when they're on the road. Just last week, Korea's #1 mobile messenger, Daum Kakao, signed a deal with Seoul's Taxi Association and Transportation Card Service to launch a taxi hailing application next year. Shopping and food delivery via smartphone is also on the rise, making it more and more convenient to order on the go. And banking apps are also expected to gain popularity, like Daum Kakao's bank wallet Kakao, which is already being supported by 16 major banks, with more than 500,000 people subscribed to it in just the third week of its launch. Interest in these mobile platforms comes naturally, as Korea's smartphone penetration is among the highest in the world. But it's also a global trend, with more surfing the internet through mobile devices compared to PCs. Speaking at Google's Mobile First World event last month, Executive Chairman Eric Schmidt said the world is changing from a web-first world to a mobile-first world, with Asia leading the market for many years to come. And the next transition forecast for the region is going mobile only. Korea's ICT ministry reported that the number of households owning smartphones this year stood at 84%, outnumbering those owning computers for the first time. That's why industry watchers expect fierce competition among smartphone platform developers and, in turn, increased use and dependency of mobile apps in our everyday life. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
Well, it's time now for a look through the global headlines we're following this Tuesday morning from Seoul. For that, we turn to Son Jung-in, who's standing by at the news center. Good morning, Jung-in.
Good morning, Mark. China has launched a probe into a senior aide to the former President Hu Jintao for corruption. The ruling Communist Party said that Ling Ji-hwa is under investigation for unspecified disciplinary violations without giving further details. Several allies of another former president, Jiang Zemin, have also been targeted, including former Chongqing Party boss Bo Xilai and former domestic security chief Zhou Yongkang. The country has intensified its campaign to tackle official corruption since Xi Jinping took over as president, with several senior government figures and state company executives in detention. And over in the U.S., Deputy Attorney General James Cole has condemned the killing of 2 officers by a crazed gunman over the weekend. Cole said on Monday that the fatal shootings by an African-American man, apparently motivated by the deaths of 2 black men at the hands of white police officers in New York City and Ferguson, were heinous and cowardly acts. Meanwhile, investigators are checking into whether the 28-year-old man, identified as Ismail Brinsley, attended any of the protests against police violence. In the wake of the shootings, members of the New York City police force accused New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio of being insufficiently supportive of police. In Tunisia, Beji Caid Essebsi has claimed victory in the country's first free presidential election, capping a 4-year-long democratic transition. Exit polls show the 88-year-old veteran received over 55% of the vote, while his rival, outgoing interim President Moncef Markozy, received 44%. In his victory speech, Essebsi called for everyone to work together to overcome the country's grave economic challenges. However, Marzoki refused to concede defeat, saying the result was too close to call. It is the first time Tunisians have freely elected their president since independence from France in 1956. Pope Francis has sharply criticized bureaucracy in the Vatican, saying gossip, pettiness, rivalry, and hunger for power had infected some with spiritual sickness. In his traditional Christmas address to cardinals on Monday, he read out what he called a catalog of ailments and temptations he said had inflicted many of the cardinals, bishops, priests who run the Roman Catholic Church. In the long speech, Francis listed 15 specific sicknesses, including the ailment of rivalry and vainglory and the disease of indifference toward others.
And a good Tuesday morning to you all as we kick things off with the Korean national football team as manager Uli Stilike announced his roster for the upcoming Asian Cup on Monday. Now, not much of a surprise if you take a look at the roster until you see Lee Jung-hyuk listed in the roster as the virtually unknown player from Sangju Sangmu military team was chosen ahead of Park Ji-young, who has played in 3 World Cups. Lee, who scored in the inter-squad friendly on Sunday, has never played on the national team and was surprised himself when he was listed on the roster, as fans are calling him Stilike's Cinderella. Meanwhile, despite both Kim Sung-gyu and Chung Sung-young being listed in the goalkeeper slot, Kim is expected to be the starting goalkeeper thanks to his success in the Asian Games. And now moving over to figure skating this time, where Ice Network, a U.S.-based figure skating website, named Kim Yuna short program the best short program of 2014. Now, in an article reviewing the 2014 year in figure skating, Kim Yuna short program performance to Send in the Clowns was named as the best performance in a short program, as they praised her movements and her acting. Meanwhile, in the same article, they listed Adelina Solnikova's gold medal win at the Sochi Winter Games the biggest upset of the year, comparing it to the 2002 Winter Games when Sarah Hughes beat out the heavily favored Michelle Kwan. And now shifting over to baseball, where the mystery to who made the highest bid on next-gen hero slugger Kang Jungho was finally revealed earlier this morning, as it was reported that the Pittsburgh Pirates were the highest bidders. Despite rumors of the Philadelphia Phillies being a possible team who placed the highest bid, it's been finally revealed that another national team placed a $5,000,2015 bid, as the NL Central's Pittsburgh Pirates were that team. Now, with the two sides looking to sign a deal, Kang Jungho might get his chance to play shortstop, as Jordy Mercer is the current shortstop in the team's depth chart at the moment. And now finishing things off with staying in baseball, spring training is still months away in the major leagues, but Lee Hyun-jin and the LA Dodgers are the early favorites to win the 2015 World Series. Now, this, of course, according to several betting sites in the U.S., including Vegas, where the LA Dodgers were listed at 8-1 or 13-2 odds of winning next season's World Series. This comes after the Dodgers made a number of trades and signings this offseason, as the Boston Red Sox and the LA Angels were the consensus #2 favorites to win the next World Series. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Good morning, Seoulites. I'm Michelle Park here with the latest weather forecast. Our temperatures have gotten warmer compared to yesterday, and our usual negative freezing temperatures in the morning is roughly 4 degrees higher, which will get up even higher to its seasonal average temperatures during the day here in the capital. Now, subsided weather conditions applies for other regions as well, putting the highs ranging between 5 to 10 degrees. Now, looking beyond the peninsula, it's currently looking partly cloudy. However, thick blanket of clouds are moving in from west, leading us into a cloudy day. And to our readings for today, Seoul will be at 5 this afternoon, while Gwangju and Busan will reach up to 7 and 9 degrees. And to other regions, Jeju Island peaks to 10, while Dokdo hits mild at 8 degrees, while Mangungang drops down low at -3. Well, that's all for now, Michelle Park, and have a wonderful day.
Well, thank you very much, Michelle, for the weather. And that's going to do it from us for now. But Korea Today is coming up at the top of the hour. Looking forward to that. Have a great day, and we'll see you later. Goodbye.